One of the lessons is that a monetary union can be successful only if the member countries are relatively homogeneous. In some of them run large budget deficits and others are fiscally conservative, there'll be divergence. If the economic structures are different, if there is not some degree of burden sharing by having fiscal resources at the center, so you share some of the burden. So there are a number of factors that we consider to figure out whether a particular set of countries make an optimal currency area or not.
Does the dollar remain the reserve currency?
There is no clear alternative. The euro might not survive. The pound is weak.
Euro won't survive, you think, even?
It's a possibility. I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but you could have some of the member states, the weakest link of the Eurozone, like Portugal or Greece, eventually exit the union, and that will weaken the euro. In the case of the Gulf states, their currency were already pegged to the US dollar before, and now they're forming a monetary union. In my view, they should flexibilize the exchange rate of the union relative to the US dollar rather than maintaining the peg.
I want to get your perspective on the Dubai debt crisis.
The Dubai case is, some sense, similar to the housing bubbles in other parts of the world. You had, to the power of three, a real estate, both commercial, residential, real estate bubble like the US, like in Florida, Arizona, California, or other parts of the world. So we have a whole range of entities that look like private, like GSEs in the US or Dubai World, or say banks in other countries, that once trouble occurs, the sovereign feels like they have to essentially take over their liabilities and bail them out because the consequences of their disorderly collapse will be more damaging.
Are you happy with the way they're working it through?
They're sending mixed signals. I think that would have been a good idea to signal that since these were private entities, then the creditor should take losses rather than expecting that Dubai or their cousins in Abu Dhabi will bail them out. I think that these continued bailout ex post of entities were supposed to be private or liability that are supposed to take a haircut in a crisis, and now, because of nervousness, the public sector take over those liabilities bad and increases the sovereign debt problem. If we keep on socializing all the private losses, the build-up of the debt of the government eventually implies that you have to raise taxes or cut spending or eventually even default.
You were born in Istanbul, of Iranian descent, and went to university in Italy. How do you see some of these markets like Turkey and Iran evolving today as economic powers in their own right?
Well, Turkey is a potentially a high-growth economy if they can keep on doing economic reforms. On one side, they want to integrate with Europe, but Europe is also a slow-growth region. That's why slowly, Turkey is starting to look east towards Central Asia, the Middle East, in part because of the politics of not being accepted by Europe. And in part is also realizing there are more growth opportunities in Central Asia and the Middle East. Iran is a country that could succeed economically in terms of population resources, but the choke of not just a political regime, but also an economic regime that is stifled and entrepreneurship is a problem. So eventually, if there is a regime change in Iran, there will be also an economic policy regime change, and Iran could be a major player as a regional economy.